Welcome to my talk, which is conducting quantitative research in the new normal setup. Okay, so I am Mr. Edgar Ramos Gorgonio Jr. I am a teacher from Siargao Division. Okay. So while listening to the presentation of your academic head a while ago, Mr. Paco, I guess that was enough to enlighten our dearest participant of Taligaman National High School to really take research very seriously. Okay, so I hope that the said presentation, the presentation of the rudiments, the importance of undertaking research will compel everyone to not just be consumers of research outputs, but also we should challenge ourselves to create and innovate. Okay, let's not just be consumers of research output. The challenge for the challenge now lies on how we become creative and innovative in coming up with a very interesting research endeavors or research undertakings. Okay, so much for that. Once again, welcome to my discussion all about conducting quantitative research. Okay. A moment, please. I'm still operating my slides presentation here. By the way, let me address this concern to our participants, our students, and so with the teachers who are listening right now to don't hesitate to raise your concerns, your point of clarification, if there is any, even if I am still discussing the assigned topic. Okay. So in conducting research, either quanti or quali research, gone are the days if you will not be familiar with their processes, their steps on how to deal with them. Okay, that's why there is also a need for them to be introduced to all of you. Okay, so we have here the process of quantitative or quantitative research. First, okay, the initial step or process of defining your research objectives and variables, and
Sir,
sample.
Mr. Gorgonio, sir. Excuse me.
Yes,
I
hello, ma'am.
think you have stopped sharing your screen because we can't see it. I mean, your presentation.
Let me check first, ma'am.
Yes, po. Thank you.
Ay, sorry. Can you now see, ma'am, my slide presentation?
Yes, sir. Full screen.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the update.
Sure.
Okay, so let me go back to my previous discussion. So here are the processes or the steps of quantitative research. We shall start by identifying the research problem, followed by defining the research objectives and variables, selecting the sample, collecting data, analyzing the data, presenting the results. Okay, the last step is the presentation of the research results. So let's talk of them one by one. Okay, so let's have identifying the research problems. It is said, and it has been repeatedly stressed, that the research problem is the heart of study. It is a clear, definite statement of the area of concern or investigation and is backed by evidence. So in short, what is the point of the presentation here is that when you are motivated, when you are interested to undertake certain or specific research activity, you should be able first to identify what is the puzzling problem, what specific problem you need to address, most especially the problem that is existing in your community. So it should start from identifying the research problem first for you to have knowledge, okay? Knowledge about what would be next, what what should be the focus of your research activity. Okay, so accordingly there are two sources of research problem. Okay, the idea for research problem tend to come from these two sources. First, we have the real life and the scholarly arena. So identifying a research problem can be as simple as observing the complications and issues in your respective community, in your area. So if you will think deeply as to the current situations, okay, we have the common problem nowadays, especially in social media, the alarming issue about historical revisionism. Okay, there is now historical distortion happening in social media because we are not also in the position to make conclusion. So if you are interested, if you are concerned about this alarming issue, that may that may help you decide upon yourselves to conduct relevant research about the said matter. Okay, so it's based on the real life situation. Also, another alternative source of research topic or research problem can be identified by simply reviewing the recently featured or published mga journals that are accessible online or even offline. Okay, you can just simply visit mga libraries, especially kanang mga libraries from the mga state colleges and universities. They have plenty of displays about the research outputs. So you can make use of those available resources. So where you can find mga potential future studies, just simply go over, di ba, sa recommendation section ng paper, you can you will be guided in a way. Okay? Makita dito sa recommendation section ang mga possible mga future studies as suggested by the proponents or the researchers themselves. Okay? So that's it. So once you find your potential research problem, uh, you will need to evaluate the problem and ensure that it is appropriate for research. It's never enough to just simply conduct a parallel study. Okay, if you think the the research problem that you have read, or the research output that you have read in your mga academic activities like researching, mga library visits. So it is also imperative for you to weigh the significance, okay, of the aforementioned material. So a research problem is deemed necessary or appropriate when it is supported by, okay, di ba we have here, a research problem is deemed appropriate when it is supported by literature and considered significant, timely, novel, specific, and researchable. All these things must be well considered prior to making your research paper, okay, prior to research proposal. You should not go presenting without considering all of these, because a good research proposal should should consider the following standard or criteria. It must be significant, timely, novel, specific, and researchable. So when can we say that a particular research is significant, okay, timely, and also novel, specific, and researchable, supported by literature? Your research problem should be relevant to the field and supported by several recent peer-reviewed studies in the field. But there is an exemption to this, okay? Even if you find the problem very timely and relevant, but there is no mga other relevant studies that would support, okay, your proposed study, then I guess it is ideal for you to right away drop your proposal and find for other research problem na ay makuha ng mga literature, okay, available online or sa mga printed materials. Okay, so that's it. Research is significant when your research problem has great impact on the field. Okay, so when we say impact on the field, that may mean practical application of the result to the field. Meaning to say, these answers to the question, who will benefit the most from the outcome or from the results of your study? Okay. So significant if it is useful in the field. And of course, you will not pursue, okay? You will not continue doing your research if you find it irrelevant, not significant. Okay, so a simple logic can dictate, by the way. Okay. Next, timely. So I guess this one thing consideration should not be neglected. Kaya naman, why? It's simply because your research problem should be related to the current needs in the field and well suited for the present status of the issue in your field. So just like, for instance, in what is happening nowadays, especially that modular distance learning is new to us. Okay, so the Department of Education is one of the hardest hit, okay, among other agencies in the government. So you can make use of our mga challenging problems in the pandemic time. Kay this will also interest our readers once our research is completed. It should be timely. So what is the mga okay, that it should follow sa mga trends. Okay? It should also follow to what is new. May iniidya na naani siya'y pattern like kung unsay patok ato i-grab. It's because of this principle, okay, of this element which is a timing. Next, novel. Your research problem should be original and unique. This is why, or that is why, in our case here in our school, we normally require our students to submit the soft copy of their output. Kaya nga naman, that is for plagiarism checking, to test the originality of their intellectual work. Okay, it's because we have this fear that maybe because of our negligence to double check the originality of the work once it becomes available online, diba? It's our reputation is at stake. Dapat we should be very careful in dealing with mga intellectual mga researches, okay, mga research outputs kay di ka lalim, no? Bukat ta ang the very term itself, research, bukat na karadyaw. So let's preserve our image and our reputation, and it's only by doing series of plagiarism checking that we can attain this originality, no, and the uniqueness of the students' written work or written output, okay, related to research. So anyway, we have, for our own comfort, there are a lot of mga softwares available online. Pwede ta mo gamit og mga CEO tools just to check the content of the output, no, na nato mga students. We can make use of them. So it's just for free, and tag-require lang diha is our devotion. Okay? To devotion to details. So panaid nato, no, if you are going to to process, to input the raw, okay, the raw content written by our students. So the software itself will process, will identify the percentage of unique, okay, originally written na portion sa ilang written, sa ilang mga sinuwat sa research. Okay. I hope you will also practice doing that. It's to help our students attain this originality and uniqueness of the research output. Next, specific and clear. Your research problem should be specific enough to set the direction of the study, raise research questions, and determine an appropriate research method and design. So, in here, you should get to read. You should do away with presenting vague research problem. Kanang walay, baka nang dili ka daw definite, dili kaayo klaro, okay? Because they may not be useful to specify the direction of your study, or they are not helpful in developing your research question. Kay title pa daan, okay? Title pa lang daan, dili na siya feasible, dili kun it can hardly stand by itself simply because it lacks clarity. Okay, so automatic i-reject na ni panel, okay, members of the panel. Okay, di ba naamanay siya kuan title hearing. Okay, title hearing prior to proposals. Okay. Next, we have researchable. I guess I have mentioned this one already. I have already made clarification on these matters. You as researcher should be able to solve the problem with your abilities and available research methods, design, research sites, resources, and time frame. So, because research problems are solved through scientific solutions, so it is impossible also for the research to be completed without the incorporation of mga statistical tools. So if it is not measurable, so again, you drop the proposal. So it also pertains to the feasibility, okay, the feasibility of your study. You as researchers should be able to solve the problem with your ability to manipulate, no? You should have hands-on hands-on ability to process everything about your research. At the end of the day, you are the ones who will be questioned by your panel, and also by your subject teacher in practical research too. And if your research requires huge amount of money in terms of these resources, so again, there is something, no? There is something wrong with the researchability na element ng research. And also if it requires long time, dili siya time bounded in so far as time frame is concerned, so still you drop your proposal. Then if the research sites are not feasible, it's because especially nowadays that we are in some places of Caraga are under strict quarantine na mga limitations in terms of movement. So we need to consider them all in doing research. Okay, we come now to defining objectives and variables. Okay. Research objectives should summarize what you hope will be achieved by the study and identify variables to be measured. So writing your objectives clearly in this part, no? Writing your objectives clearly helps to define the focus of your study. Okay, so remember, always have in mind that your research objectives, your research problems, the statement of the problems, along with the highlighted variables in your study, have something to do with the development of your study. It is where your study evolves. Okay? When we cite our research methodology, we always advise to go back to the enumeration of our objectives and the variables. When we also write our RRL, the review of related literature, still we should go back to how we cited our objectives and the variables. Okay, so and objectives and variables are considered our compass in uh, finishing or doing our research activity. Next, we have here selecting appropriate research design. So I will just make a short discussion about this about research design. I have a separate discussion, a thorough discussion about research design later in my presentation. The choice of the appropriate study design depends upon the way the research question is stated. Okay, the one I mentioned a while ago. Choosing our appropriate study design must be anchored on the research questions we have enumerated in the statement of the problems section. Always remember that. Next, we have select sample. Sampling is a method that allows researchers to infer information about a population based on results from a subset of the population without having to investigate every individual. So the very essence why there is sampling in conducting research is that it would be impractical for any researchers, any researcher to take on, the entire population as our participants. So practical na kayo kay we have taught already, we were taught already na any results coming from the samples are enough to represent the whole population. Maunang nahitabo sa SWS survey, di ba? Sa Pulse Asia na mga survey, wala pa na-appeal pero still the reliable result from that survey through the use of the sampling is enough to make generalization. Mabuta ng uban malaw na dili valid, dili mo tuo si P. Duterte, di mo tuo dyan mga survey kay naman kuno only samples were involved during the survey. Pero we should not underestimate, we should not underestimate the power of sampling. Coming from the statisticians themselves, who are we, by the way? Who are we to invalidate their claims about sampling? So it was introduced because it is of great help in the field of research. Tagdirakan si P. Duterte kay that's very nature, nature man sa iyahang ingana manulti. So we come now to data collection. Don't worry, if I make this fast in so far as my discussion is concerned, because I also have separate lecture about guidelines, on how to accomplish, how to write research following the standard format. So here in data collection, it's the process, data collection is the process of gathering and measuring information on variables of interest. You have nothing to present if you have not collected mga relevant, substantial data or information which are purely derived from mga scientific procedures and processes. Okay? Dili pwede issue diri. That's why pangitaon gyud ang research instruments. Dapat dili walaon. Okay? Dapat we need to consider the anonymity of the material. For example, an this paper na tag-float, okay, the questionnaire na tag-float sa field, it's okay to disclose that, okay? It's okay na ilantad, ipakita publicly, but make sure there's no identity on it. Okay, wayay pangayan. Kay that's one of the rights, diba, embedded in the ethics of conducting research na part sa ilaan seguridad, sa ila privacy. Bahala malantad ang papel, but make sure there's no label, no, sa ilang mga pangalan. That's basic. Okay, reminder in adhering strictly to the privacy. Next, we have here data analysis. Data analysis is the process inspecting, cleaning, transforming, modeling data to discover useful information. So with the help of your statisticians, okay, I understand that you have mga excellent math teachers and even your research, no, practical research to subject teachers are also knowledgeable enough, maybe, no, in terms of dealing with numbers, statistics, operating, okay, using mga statistical tools. So those will lead you to data analysis. Dapat in the first place, accurate ang pag-process ng mga raw data, no, especially in terms of numbers, for you to come up with correct data analysis. Okay. If it is mistakenly done, then it's not right. Okay. It's not ideal for you to present your output publicly. I-display ba nato? You should take pride of your own work, no? Once your paper, your research paper will be published and will become available in your very own library. Okay, pagkagana sa feeling nga ang trabaho, okay, ang mga trabaho ninyo, your work which will be done through your dedications, okay, done by heart, okay, there is really great sense of fulfillment nga mahimo nga basihan sa mga coming generations of Taligaman National High School. Okay, that you should take it, no, you should consider it as your legacy before leaving your alma mater, Taligaman National High School. Next, we have here results, presentation. Write your research paper to show others the information you were able to obtain and how it relates to your hypothesis. So later, you will be provided with standard format, okay? It may not be your format in your school, but maybe it will help you. It can help you in a way, okay? So let's have this statistical treatment. I will not go into details, okay? Just an advanced instruction. I will not go into details in terms of meaning statistical treatment. I will just give you little backgrounds about the common statistical treatments, statistical operations na common ginagamit in conducting quantitative research. Okay. So we have here statistics. Okay, we have its classification, descriptive and inferential. When can we consider na a particular or a specific objective or a specific research statement of the problem falls or belongs under descriptive and inferential statistics? So let's have descriptive when the operation requires the use of mga measure of central tendency like the mean, median, and the mode. Okay? All these are basic sa research. Kaya for example, ang mga frequency count, di ba? When you do profiling in your research study, for example, mula ang amo ingon mo no, I'm sorry no if makasulti ko og Siargao or Sinurigaw the GGG, the J sound. It's because that's innate to our public, no, our speaking style. So if na question sa inyong statement of the problems like what is the profile of the respondents, okay, when grouped according to 1.1, sex, religion, okay, academic achievement. Okay, so kanitanan manginahanglan the ones I mentioned very earlier need the use of mga mean, median, mode, okay, to tally, okay, mga frequency count, okay, the percentage. So amo to na belong sa descriptive. Okay, so we also have here the MOV or the measure of variability. Okay, we have the standard deviation, the variance, and we also have the range. So pag moingon tao kaning magamit ning standard deviation, kaning variance of range in terms of what? In terms of ilang dispersion. Okay? Let's recall our knowledge about statistics. Unsa kakatag ang score? Unsa kakatag ang tabulation? Okay, sa ato profiling. So mogamit ta diha karon og standard deviation, variance of range. So don't worry about this one because your statistics are just right there beside you to guide you as well. Okay. So we have here inferential. Pag naa na gani questions like ingon nga, is there a significant difference or is there a significant relationship, di ba? Mogamit na kita diha og inferential statistics with the use of t-test, the Pearson's correlation, and ANOVA. So I'm presenting this one to you because during your proposal, everything is well defined. Okay? Well defined ang tanan nga tagsuwat, I mean, on your paper. Dapat mabasa mismo, okay? Mabasa mismo ni panel o ni subject teacher, your research advisor about mga possible or mga required statistical operations na needed para ma-process ang data. Okay? Mga data na makuha during the course of the conduct of your research activity. Okay? So we will talk of them later, no? At mga t-test, Pearson correlation of ANOVA. Here, let's have these t-test. The independent sample t-test and the single nga paired sample t-test. So when is it used? Kanus man nato gamiton si independent sample t-test. So it applies when there are two separate populations to compare. For example, if your study talks primarily about performance ng let's say for example duha ka section taglahi ang population, let's say oral communication skill, okay, the mga fluency, articulation ng students, ng senior high school students. So if there are two separate populations you'd like to study, then you need to use t-test, specifically independent sample t-test. It's because there are already two separate populations involved in your study. Okay. Next, We also have here paired t-test. It should have been number 2, not 1. Okay, I stand corrected. It should have been number 2. So paired sample t-test. So when do we use it? So it is appropriate when there are two measures to be compared for a single population. Gaina, we are talking about, no, we are in the light of measuring the competence ng grade 12 students, no, duha ka sections in terms of their communicative competence. So in here, in paired sample t-test, there are two measures, no, to be compared for a single population. For example, studyhan nimo ang effectiveness ng ICT assisted instructions inside the classroom. So you will conduct first. Okay, una, magklase ka without the aid of the ICT, without ICT integration. Then ikaduha, still the same population, okay, the same sample ang imong gamiton with integration already ng ICT. So from there, you can come up with, no, mga conclusions, okay, based on the observations that you have had, okay, during the conduct of your research. So magamit ang paired sample t-test. There are two measures required for a single population. Again. Next, we have here correlation. Allows an examination of the relationship. So I highlighted here the keyword relationship, no, between variables. For example, if in your research problem, in your statement of the problem, no, ingon, is there a significant relationship? Okay, if you happen to hear, to read that kind of construction, okay, that kind of presentation in your research statement of the problem, then that is suggestive of correlation, a relationship man between variables. Okay. Then we also have here ANOVA, a general method of drawing conclusion regarding differences of population means when two or more groups are involved. So you pay close attention to the phrase when two or more groups are involved. So we can still make use of ANOVA when, if no, kung naay duha. However, because of its complexity in terms of what? In terms of solving, medyo madugo man ang ANOVA, taas-taas ang proseso. So let's use instead t-test. Okay? Let's use ANOVA when there are more than two groups involved. Pero kung duha ra gani, that's why part of my note here na which reads, the t-test is a special case of ANOVA when considering only two groups. It's because it is well stated here na when two or more groups are involved, pero for our own comfort, so para ease, di ba? For ease, gamito nato ang t-test instead of ANOVA kay duha ra man ang covered na groups sa ato study. So let me reiterate once more na let's use ANOVA, no, only when there are more than two groups, okay, that are involved in the study. Okay, let's have this example, okay, to shed light this a little bit complex matter. Let's have a series of examples. Sige. If your title goes an experimental study of teaching English through direct and traditional methods of traditional method at secondary level. If your statement of the problem number 1 goes this way, what is the academic achievements of the students in English before their exposure to direct method and traditional method? So, because initially, the sentence started with what? So that gives us an idea na we should use descriptive statistics, statistics, specifically the use of mean and standard deviation. Okay, it's about profiling man, profiling. Okay, next, just a continuation for the second statement of the problem. What challenges? So again, because of the word what, so that prompted us to cite mean and standard deviation as its ideal statistical tool needed. Next, we also have here number 3 statement of the problem. Are there significant differences in the academic achievement of the students in English before and after their exposure to direct method and traditional methods? So because of the phrase significant differences, so this is for t-test or ANOVA, specifically paired sample t-test. Okay, so paired sample t-test siya gumikan kay the population is just the same. Duha ka, although there are two duha ka applications na tag-test, pero still this falls under paired sample t-test. So I mark ANOVA, I mark the word ANOVA red. It's simply because it's optional. T-test nato gamito instead of ANOVA. Next, for the fourth statement of the problem, are there significant differences in the academic, in the academic achievement of the students subjected to two methods? So this is already, this is still paired sample t-test. Ay still the same naman gihapon ang atong population na tag-involved under investigation or under study. So t-test instead of ANOVA. Another title, Factors Affecting Mathematics Achievements of Students of Philippine Normal University. So let's have our first statement of the problem. What is the mathematics achievement still? Okay, descriptive means and sa uban, this is called weighted mean. Okay. Then we also have standard deviation. Once again, if you have points of clarification, please feel free to raise that any moment. Okay. Even if I'm still discussing my presentation. Second statement of the problem, is there a significant difference between the performance of respondents in fundamental mathematics and contemporary mathematics? Dinhi nakita mo gamit of independent sample t-test. It's because fundamental respondents in fundamental mathematics uh, are not the same with our respondents in contemporary mathematics. So there are two separate population or sample in here, okay, in this statement of the problem. Pero ang gamiton gyapon nato is t-test instead of ANOVA. Next. What are the factors that affect, no? So profiling gihapon, okay, what are the factors? So descriptive, the weighted mean, and the standard deviation. Fourth problem, statement of the problem. Is there significant relationship between and among the mathematics achievement of the respondents and the factors that affect the mathematics achievement? So, ang nahitabo diri is correlation because of the word relationship. Okay. Next. Relationship, no, this is for another study. Okay. And here's the title. Relationship between motivation and students' English learning achievement. So what are the levels? Automatic, no, descriptive, mean, and standard deviation. So for number 2, are there any significant differences? That's typographical, no, differences in motivation between student with high and low achievement. So this is independent. Gumikan kay, we have high and low, okay? But students with high and low achievement. So separated ang population. Next. Are there any significant relationships? Automatic because of the word relationships, okay, that prompted us to make use of correlation. Okay, so any questions so far about the statistical treatment, the common statistical treatments in research writing? Is there any question you'd like to ask?
I think there's none, sir.
Okay. Sige. Mabati pa ko, ma'am, no? Madungog pa, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sorry, guys. Sorry, sir, because we actually have set the house rules, and I told them that they could only ask questions. I mean, they could only park their questions on the chat room and not interrupt you. But again, because it is your request, so guys, you all need to ask questions if you need to. Okay? Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for facilitating. Okay, so this time, we come now to qualitative research design. So we were done talking about or discussing about the statistical treatment. So we come now to qualitative research design. Okay, you need to decide as well, no, upon proposal, you need to state your research, the research design that you need to employ in your research. So, what happened? So there are types of qualitative research design, and one of them is experimental research. Okay. Under experimental research, we also have subtype or subcategory, the true experimental and the quasi-experimental. So it is said that the most no, that the true experimental research is the most accurate type of experimental research design or experimental design, and it always involves a control group and test group. And there is also variable manipulation and random selection of participants. This is non-biased, okay, because participants are randomly selected. Okay. There is a manipulation, no, of variable for you to come up with the desired, okay, the desired outcome the outcome of the study as predefined in your statement. For example, here, the impact of classical music on academic performance. Okay, the impact of classical music on academic performance of the student. The keywords here are as follows: impact. Then we have classical music. Okay, we have academic performance of students. So our control group shall be held constant and regular with no intervention at all. So meaning the required intervention here based on the presentation of the title is the music itself, the classical music man. Okay, that is our control group. Then we also have here test experimental group. The presence of intervention, which is the music. The variables are manipulated. So what are our variables in here? So we have the frequency and the volume of the music. So if we think na the music is not that audible, no, especially to those who are seated at the back, so we need to modulate. Okay, we need to tone up the volume. Okay, that's part of variable manipulation. So this is true experimental, no? Kay there is a manifestation of variable manipulation. Okay? So you need to. So you are in here. You are in the light of identifying which one is effective, no, uh, in terms of promoting the academic performance among our students. So is it without or with intervention and classical music? So it's not for us to decide. It's not for us to conclude because there is a need, no? There is a need for this to be proven by conducting parallel or relevant research undertaking. So I am just presenting you this specific example to give clear presentation, just to give clear understanding about the nature of true experimental research. So in terms of selection of participants, sampling, so I understand that in your previous discussion during your grade 11 year, okay, so it was already introduced to you about mga stratified random sampling, purposive sampling, no? The kind of sampling na you need to employ in your study depends primarily on the nature of your study. Like for example, random selection of participants cannot be used if you're talking about mga martial law victims. Okay? Kay purposive sampling man, you will go directly to whoever have knowledge about martial law. Okay? And also mga survivors ng time ng time ni late President Marcos. So that's it. And then here, assessment is both given. So after conducting your experiment, between a group of students with intervention and group of students without intervention, so you need to give them equal assessment. Okay. Then after the assessment, you look for the significant observation. Okay. For you to, it will lead you, it will help you come up with valid conclusion as well. So under experimental research, we also have the so-called the quasi. Okay, the quasi-experimental, it's almost the same, but they only differ in terms of selection of the participants, because in here, in quasi-experimental, it is not randomly, participants are not randomly selected. And also there is an administration of the pre-test and the post-test in quasi-experimental research. So for example, if you are conducting research about vocabulary or the reading, reading capability among grade 7 students, so you choose grade 7 because they are at the terminal year. Okay, they are in the terminal year. So good, di ba? So good man ang grade 7. So as early as grade 7, you assess. If you are interested to conduct that kind of study, you assess their reading capability. So need man ka mo gamit, ba? You can use actually our assessment tool in DepEd, like sa PhilEri. PhilEri is already a valid valid result. Okay, whatever you have in PhilEri, once it is religiously done by the concerned teachers, so baseline na automatic para sa ato intervention in school. So there is pre-test and post-test in quasi-experimental. For example, reading intervention program as aid for students with low. So, and please don't mind about the capitalization, wala ma-apply ang capitalization sa mga content words here sa title. So, just focus on the presentation alone. Reading intervention program as aid for students with low level comprehension. Okay, so what makes the study or what requires the study the use of pre-test? Simply because you cannot get the participants, okay, you cannot identify the participants with low level of comprehension without administering first i-pre-test. So para makuha nato ang participant, desired participants who have low level of comprehension, we need to administer pre-tests, and that makes the process qualified to be considered a quasi-experimental kaya nag-pre-test man kita. Okay, so reading comprehension test to determine who among students have passed and who among have failed. Okay, so very clear. Then after identifying, after you have identified the two classification of students, the high and low, you proceed with your intervention. Like, which is the reading intervention program? So, tagain ng mga intervention program that would help them elevate, okay, accelerate their performance in terms of reading comprehension. So, after giving the intervention, you administer the post-test. Like, which one, which is another comprehension test to know if they would pass or would still fail. Okay, that's the very essence, the very essence why there is and need for the administration of post-test, no, for us to know the consistency of the participants' performances in terms of reading comprehension skills. Sige. Okay, so I hope na I have made clear presentation about true experimental and the quasi-experimental. Usually ang mga ang science na mga science related na mga researches mo gamit gyud sila og pwede man pod true experimental, quasi-experimental, pero depende sa nature and the processes you employed in your research. That's why I introduce them to you para you have something to. I also understand na it's just a short recall, a short recapitulation, because it's all of these are also embedded in your research discussions made by your respective research, practical research 1 and 2 subject teachers. So we come now to another type of qualitative research. We have survey research. So for me, kani ang pinakadali, survey research. Why? By simply asking, by simply undergoing interviews, doing surveys, giving questionnaire, then the information would become readily available. Okay? Mao ni ang gigamit sa mga kanang paid survey, mga survey like mga Pulse Asia and SWS survey. Okay? Survey research. So it is done to gather evidences. Now it should be evidence. Okay? There's no such word as evidences. Okay? It should be pieces of evidence and piece of evidence, not evidences. I stand corrected. On people's knowledge, opinions, attitudes, and values on various issues and concerns. So normally, survey research follows the trends, okay, the timeliness of the issue. For example, you can ask the idea, you can cite the opinion of other people, your fellows, they are in Taligaman, okay, if they are okay with the implementation of the modular distance learning. Okay? For example, here it's sa Siargao Islands, are we okay with mga successive na pamaligya ng lupa? So sa amo mga front beach areas, wala na tag-iya nga locals. Usually, pag muadto ka sa mga baybay sa front beach, ang tag-iya ang lupa are already mga foreign people. So this is quite alarming. When we have plans, mga outings with the family, we need, even if it is understood, it is given na that is government property and that should not be owned by any private individual, still, we need their approval. Mananghid gihapon mi kay ang seawall ilahaman. Okay? Tapos muagi pa mi sa ilahang property. So this is quite alarming. So pwede magamit, you can raise any concerns, okay, to be subjected for this survey research based on the existing timely issues in your locality or in your community. Okay, so it makes use of questionnaire, interviews, and surveys. Then variables are not controlled or manipulated, yes. No intervention at all is given or applied in survey research. And challenge, the challenges sa survey research is your ability on how to record, okay, to take note the different responses given by your respondents or your participants. So if you are using a recorder, please ask consent from them. Okay, that's part man ng ethics in conducting research. Mananghid kay okay, to give them assurance. Okay, give them an assurance that whatever information you get from there, so it will just uh, be used purely for academic research purpose. Okay. Next, yes, we have here example under research, no, survey research, like survey research about people's preference on mass testing. Okay, and also uh, the what is this? Level of acceptance, their hesitance, okay, in terms of vaccination. Okay, na may mga, di ba na may mga false report, mga false information uh, scattering throughout social media na pagtuko daghay nangamatay, daghay adverse effect, daghay mga mahimo kuno zombie, okay, o ubang pa nga mga kaetikan. Okay? So here pwede nimo sa pangutan, pwede nimo kuhaon ang opinion ng public in terms of okay, about build program. Do you feel that in your local place na bay mga concrete manifestation nga ang build program is really visible uh, even sa mga remote and mga highly secluded places? Okay, that's it. Just plainly getting the opinion, people's opinion about a particular issue or topic. Some responsibilities of the researchers: record and tally the responses, analyze and interpret tallied data, then come up with conclusion. Okay, let's have this example about preference man on mass testing. So, for example, if you have conducted an interview out of your total participant of your respondents is 3,600, and out of 3,600, 2,700 of them said yes. Okay, they are okay with the mass testing. So you get the percentage like 75%. Okay, so 2,700 is 75% of the total population, which is 3,600. Then the ones who responded no, so 900 is 25% of 3,600. So based on that, based on the tabulation, based on that frequency count as to the yes and no answers, you can conclude validly that majority or 75% is in favor. Therefore, typographical again, group A is in favor of mass testing. So this is how easy survey research is. Easy if you feel, okay, you love doing it. And also the problem of your own choice, ganahan ka, kay imuhaman. Okay, and also interesting and timely. We have also here correlational research, another type of research design. From the word itself, correlate, di ba? Correlate, correlational. So it seeks to interpret the degree of relationship between two or more variables using statistical data. The phrase degree of relationship, okay, between two or more variables. In here, in correlational research, variables are not controlled or manipulated. No intervention is applied. Okay. For example, let's have this. Let's have this example. influence of online gaming to critical thinking of students. Or pwede po maingon na influence of online gaming to communicative competence of students. Okay? So in your study, you also need to specify at what level. Okay? For example, kung grade 7 ba or 8, 9, and 10, and so on and so forth. So why is it communicative competence is attributed to the influence of online gaming? It's simply because there are online games that are highly interactive. For example, when I happen to interview our grade 12 students, naingon si Janga, sir, naay duwa sir online nga need magsulti-sulti, need kuno magsigit-singgit. Kinsa man pud imo kalaban dudong loy sa online. Sir, there are mga foreign players. So unsa man do mag-English gibalik taw. Yes sir, para maka-interact. So if you are interested really to know if there is direct impact between the influence of online gaming to critical thinking or communicative competence ng students, you can make, diba? You can pursue with that kind of study. Okay? Sige. In this study, the researchers hypothesized that there is no significant relationship between online gaming and critical thinking. Okay? It's because in your presentation, positive naman ang imong pagkalahad, like influence of online gaming to critical thinking students. So in your hypothesis, you negate the concept, the idea that you have in your title by saying there is no significant relationship between online gaming and critical thinking. Pero and the rejection and the acceptance of this hypothesis depends heavily on the outcome or the results of your study. Okay, specifically on the outcome of the statistical operations. Ay i-subject pa man siya sa di ba i-solve pa man gamit ang tong mga statistical treatment, okay, sa study. Then the researchers need to find online gamers who would agree to be part of the study. No intervention is allowed. In here, a purposive sampling na iniato gamiton kay you need to confront right away, you need to go directly to whoever are online gamers. Okay, that's purposive. Kay kung mo gamit ka ng random sampling, you might mistakenly take students who are not online gamers. So that makes random selection not applicable in here in this particular study. So what are the responsibilities of the researchers? Focus primarily on gathering needed data, apply correct statistical treatment, analyze and interpret treated data, then reject or accept the hypothesis. Pero ang rejection o ang acceptance di man kaani masaya once you are under the strict guidance of your thesis advisor or research advisor along with your math teachers who would act as your statisticians. Okay, so additional note here that the participants will be given materials that would assess their online gaming habits as well as their critical thinking level. From there, appropriate statistical treatment will be given in order to identify if there is a relationship between online gaming and critical thinking, okay, whether an increased online gaming will result to an increased critical thinking or vice versa. So it's really up to the outcome of your study Okay, kung positive ba or negative. Okay? Kana ang basihan when to reject and accept your hypothesis. Next, we have cross-sectional research. Involves gathering data at a single point in time, focuses on same set of variables. Then comparisons are made across variables of interest. So, for example, here in our study, a researcher wants to identify the spending trends between men and women in their 30s. So you are interested to know who between men and women are uh, lucrative. Okay, lucrative. That means burara. Okay, burara magasto ng kwarta. Okay, about their spending trends. So what will you do? The finding concludes that women tend to spend more money than men. So if this is your finding, if this is your conclusion, following the concept about cross-sectional research, you will get this conclusion and compare also sa same variables of interest, like i-compare nato kung same sa ba, pareha pud ba ang men and women at their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. Okay? So that makes cross-sectional kay ang gi-compare nato in the actual study is only limited to men and women in their 30s. Pero nahimo na cross-sectional simply because gigamit nato ang conclusion to also observe men and women in their 40s, sa 50s, 60s, and so on and so forth. Okay, that makes the nature of research cross-sectional. Okay, next, let's have longitudinal research. So from the word itself, longitudinal, it requires much of our time. Okay? It consumes longer time for this longitudinal research to finish. So data in collected at multiple points in time. So there is one specific set of time where you need to get data, observations, especially if you are doing experiments that requires longer time, done for the purpose of comparing data sets, no intervention, and no variable manipulation. Okay, for example, the effect of the use of antiretroviral medicines as maintenance drug from HIV positive patients. Okay, so an effect of the use of antiretroviral medicines. Mauni ang i-inject sa mga HIV positive na persons para ma-limit ang production ng virus sa body. Okay? So participants are individuals tested positive with HIV. Pero this is highly technical, You cannot do it kay it's impossible for you to disclose persons with HIV case. Bawal man ilantad. So maybe mga researchers in the field of medicine and allowed mo undergo this kind of study. So at the start of the study, I am just presenting you this kind of these details for you to be guided in generating your relevant understanding about longitudinal research. So at the start of the study, HIV viral load is taken. So if this is day 1, so kuanan sila papatumaron, okay, kung injection man gani injectionan or kung tumaron ang tablet patumaron tanan. Okay, after which they will be monitored in results to determine the medicines, if the medicines are working. So after taking the medicine, monitoring follows. Based on this particular example, so you can have the monitoring like monthly ba, weekly ba, or quarterly. So it's up for you. It's up to you kung ano yung time frame, ano yung schedule pattern on how to do the monitoring process. So based on this particular example, it takes a quite long time before we can finish this particular study. Hence, we have the term longitudinal. Okay, so sa field ng no, maybe pwede sa maka-apply ng longitudinal research about the implementation ng modular distance learning. Okay, you cannot finish that kind of study in just a month. Okay, just a couple of months. It takes even the entire school academic year, okay, for you to lay down your conclusion, okay, and also the result of your study. So any research topic that requires long time, okay, in terms of its completion, so you can subject that under longitudinal research. Okay. So my next topic is already guidelines in writing a research paper. So bagan ko ano na ba ni kanang guidelines, actuation, mga basic guidelines in writing research paper. Maybe ma'am we can have this time the Q&A portion para dili sila ma-miss ang ilang curiosity about the discussed topics. Am I still here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Because as I see the program here, the presentation should end at
11:30 yata, sir.
yes 11:30, ma'am. You're right, ma'am. Then our time as of the moment is still 10:43. Dapat ako may learning guidance in writing research. If ever there are questions from our student participants, maybe it's high time for you to raise your concern, if there's any.
Yes, guys. Actually, sir, on the chat room, they've been telling us that they're having intermittent internet connection because it's raining really heavily. So,
Yes, ma'am. I entirely
so
understand
guys,
the
take
situation.
care. Just basig mo balik ra ang atong internet, no? O ba ani
Yes,
sir
ma'am.
naka-data lang po.
Problema gyud ning signal, ma'am. Very true. True to all.
Kusog pud ang ulan, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Basit
Anyway,
na apay kuan guys, basit na amoy questions on certain topics.
Anyway, this one is recorded, ma'am, no?
Yes. Good thing that this session is recorded and you can just view it. We will send you the link. However, if you have questions katong sa makaya sa internet, guys, our guest speaker is more than willing to clarify all of your questions.
Yes, ma'am. For clarification, ma'am, good, ma'am. No? Sige, ma'am.
Oo.
Grabe ning mga ano, taglain ng struggle sa mga bata in terms of internet connectivity.
Yes, sir.
Naigiuwan, naay problema sa PisoNet.
It's okay. It's okay, students. Pero kung makaya, kung mabalik na, balik lang gihapon na.
Sige. So maybe I shall continue, ma'am, with my discussion, right?
Yes, sir.
Sige.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Welcome, sir.
So this time, let's proceed to our next topic, which is the guidelines in writing a research paper. This is how you should manage writing your research paper, okay, upon or prior to your submission. Okay. Naghang siya for a while. Okay, this abstract is done once the study has already been completed. Okay, so you cannot present your definitely you cannot present your abstract during your proposal, during the proposal stage. So this is intended, no, only when you are presenting your complete papers, research paper. So an abstract is a brief, comprehensive summary of the contents of the thesis or dissertation, or if it is academic educational research, that allows readers to survey the content of the thesis or dissertation quickly. So in short, this abstract serves as the summary, okay? A short glimpse of whatever are there in your research, no, in the inside pages, in different different sections. And of course, you need to follow the standard pattern, no, format in writing the abstract. Like it should be, it should be a single paragraph without indentation. Okay, so we should stick to the given guidelines in writing the abstract of our research paper. So it should be single it should be single paragraph without paragraph indentation. So in our with our basic knowledge in terms of paragraph writing, nulaw sa English nga, okay, the principles of writing dapat may indentation, pero in here, deviance from the rule without indentation, because we are dealing with the abstract. The abstract is a brief summary of the research study, totaling from 150 to 250 words. So again, we need to meet this requirement. Okay, the composition of your abstract should not exceed, okay, to more than 250 words, and should not also go down to the minimum, okay, to the minimum which is 150 words. Pwede siya exactly 150, o pwede po exactly 250 words. But more than that and less than that, no, given the minimum and the maximum counts, so it's a no-no, okay, in writing the abstract. Then it should be written in past tense when referring to the conduct of the study. For example, results showed that, okay, then the participants of the study were composed of, okay, so because they refer to the conduct of the study, that's why they should be in past form of the verb. However, no, if uh, they should be in present tense when referring to ideas, concepts, or implications derived from the research study. For example, the findings imply that. Okay, the findings imply that, it's no longer about the conduct of the study. It's already about the outcomes. Okay. Next. What should comprise? Okay, what should comprise the abstract? Okay, they are the following, or these are the following. Keywords. Okay, keywords maybe 3 to 4, okay, before the abstract. Okay, you highlight, you identify the very meat. Okay, the very meat of the study. Like if your study is all about communicative competence among grade 7 students of Taligaman National High School, so you can use communicative. Okay, communicative competence, then and also mga content words na naa sa makita nato sa RRL, pwede po sa naapod sa kanang well defined nimo sa definition of terminologies. Okay, you can find mga keywords there. Also, there is one sentence statement of the problem or research question, then brief description of the subjects or participants, brief description of the research methods and procedures, basic findings, report of the results, including effects, including effect sizes and confidence interval, and or statistical significance or levels. Then there is also conclusions and implications of or applications. So you will not be be messed up by if you will strictly follow the enumerated composition of the abstract. So for clarity, for better understanding about abstract, let's have this example. So I intentionally highlighted each part using different color for emphasis purpose. For example, the ones, okay, I'm referring to the text, okay, the ones written in red is, okay, this part is pertains to our one sentence statement of the problem or research question. Like when you say, the study investigates the organizational dimension affecting performance of secondary schools by determining the relationship of selected internal organizational variables. So that is the presentation of the statement of the problem or research question. Next, what follows is our brief description of the subjects or participants. Like when you say respondents consisting of 30 principals, 25 subject coordinators, and 292 teachers from 30 secondary schools, 14 private and 16 public, in the province of Romblon and Marinduque, used two sets of questionnaire, one for principals and the other for teachers, and where interviewed focused group discussion was also conducted. Okay, that is for our brief description. of the subject or participants. Also, the next part is for our brief description of the research method and procedure. And lastly, excuse me, the conclusions and implications or the applications. So you will not be lost actually, no, when writing abstract if you will really follow the given kaning, the composition of of an abstract. Okay, for a while. So in chapter 1, which is the presentation of the problem and its background. Normally, no, this chapter includes the following: introduction, conceptual or theoretical framework, statement of the problem and purpose and the hypothesis, if applicable, kay na may research na mag-need ng hypothesis. Especially kung ang imo study is developmental research. Okay, kanang mo-come up ka og material at the end of your research activity. Then we have also significance of the study, scope and delimitation of the study. Then you also have definition of terms. Okay, let's talk this time about introduction. Okay, introduction. Before discussing the main topic or problem of your thesis or dissertation, you should be able to introduce it first in a broad perspective. Okay, so your approach, no, based on the details, no, based on the presentation of the details in this particular slide, so it can be deduced from here, I mean, that the presentation should follow, the presentation of your problem and its background should follow deductive approach of writing. Deductive in the sense that you should start presenting the general concept of your study, then it will be specified right after as you continue presenting your contention of your study in the next and for the in the next and in the succeeding paragraphs. Okay, so your introduction should be able to offer an overview or an overall view of the research area and the general nature of the topic or problem. Show how it relates to the field of inquiry, present and describe the logical development of your research problem or topic area you intend to study in such a manner that it is sufficient or enough to be understood by the reader, not to mention the rationale of the study or what motivated you to conduct the study. So in short, the structure of your chapter 1, oh, the problem and its background should be written in an essay format. Essay, but everything you tell in your problem, no, and its background should be supported by or must be supported by more relevant or related studies. Okay, related studies, no, to back up, no, to also establish reliability of your claim in the presentation of your problem and its background. Okay. And also in writing your problem, no, your chapter 1, your introduction, make sure na You will not use mga highfalutin words. Okay? Do it simply. Okay? Conventional language, no? Conventional English in a way na uh, your intended, no, your target readers, your intended readers can easily understand what you're telling in your research paper. It's not about presenting how creative you are, how rich you are in terms of vocabulary, especially mga difficult words. Not that way, no? Dapat pasimplihan ra gud. The what is that? The simplest possible way of your writing, no, style, the better in writing your introduction. Especially na you are a student, no, dapat makita one way of validating the originality of your written work is by assessing your writing style. If it is not your way of writing, then it is safe for me, for everybody to conclude na it's not your work. Okay? If it is lifted from the internet, no, from any online sources, once the soft copy will be subjected for plagiarism checking, then the system itself will notify us as to the percentage of the original and the plagiarized output. Okay, that is also important consideration in writing your introduction. Dapat personally written by you as students. So it's a challenge. By the way, no, it's a challenge. Writing your introduction is a test of your creative writing skill. Okay, how good you are in paraphrasing. For example, when you have substantial information lifted from the internet, you should not paste them as is, okay, in tutu. Dili masida as in totally i-paste ra kay the system can detect, no, the issue of plagiarism. So dapat your creativity, no, your cleverness in paraphrasing informations taken from online sources is a must here in writing your introduction. Okay. Then in writing your introduction as well, you should be able to identify the gap of your study. Okay. You also include the intensity, no, the degree of importance why it motivates you to study. Okay, dapat makita ang kabugaton, kung unsa ka severe ang problem, kung unsa kadako ang problema, unsa kabugat nga nag-prompt sa imo as a student to undertake that kind of study. That's important consideration also in writing your introduction. Then present the local problem. After presenting the general concept of the problem, diba kay ang order man good in writing your introduction dapat ingani. Concept, international. Okay? International, going to national. Okay? Kung pwede na ay mga regional mga concepts, no, mga idea na pwede makuha, pwede, the better, than going to the local setting. Okay, that's why usually ma-introduce ang problem, your local problem, at the last part, okay, of your introduction. Okay, sa last part ng paragraph in the introduction section. Okay, in chapter 1, which is the problem and its background. Okay. Next, we have the conceptual or theoretical framework of your study. Your conceptual and theoretical framework can be presented in a graphical diagram showing the research problem topic area, the variables, dependent, independent, and even intervening variables, and how they relate to each other. For example, if in your statement of the problems, it is found, no, it is found there, na, there were mentions of, variables like age, sex, religion, academic achievements, okay, economic status. Make sure they will be reflected in your conceptual and theoretical framework. Na iuban nga mugamit og mga box-box, mga araw-araw, di ba? Mga pattern diagram. Make sure na the direction of the arrow, the use of boxes, ang mga connections ng mga lines na gigamit in theoretical framework and also in your conceptual framework have something to do with the direction of our understanding about your study. Kay basing nagamit-gamit ka og mga diagram, di ba, mga diagrams in the presentation of your conceptual and theoretical framework, pero upon deep understanding, no, dili siya suited, dili siya applicable. So be mindful of that. Be very cautious, no, in using mga diagrams in presenting your conceptual and theoretical framework. So dapat na ay strong connection. Then the flow as well of your study is reflected in your conceptual and theoretical framework. Okay? So sa framework padaan makita nato kung unsaon or giunsa ang proseso sa study. Like kung may intervention, makita dapat ito what kind of specific intervention you applied in your study. And also the outcomes, if there's any, dapat well reflected in your conceptual and theoretical framework. Sige. So in some cases, we have a note here, in some cases, conceptual and theoretical framework may be separated. Tinood, okay? Lahi si conceptual, lahi po si theoretical framework. Okay, so we come now to
Sir Logronio? Sir? Mr. Laglot? Gorgonio. Sir? Ay, sir, marag nakamute ka and you got disconnected for a very short while.
hello. How long ako na-disconnect, ma'am? Dugay ba, ma'am?
Just a very short while, sir.
Sige. I was not mindful na I was out already of these from this Zoom room.
Sige, sir. Live na, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Makita na akong slides presentation, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So going back to my discussion, in the statement of the problem or purpose section, you should be able to state clearly and explicitly the objectives of your study or the research question questions and or subsidiary or supplementary questions. Your statement of the problem or purpose provides more the reason, the E3 for your thesis or dissertation. So it is the very, the very intent why you are more than interested and motivated to pursue that kind of research study. So it is the underlying rationale of your research study. Keep in mind that your problem statement serves as an invitation to the study that tells the reader what the problem is, what it is all about, and why the study is needed. So that's why, based on my personal experience when I presented my uh, uh, birth-funded study sa region, the panel members would tend to go directly to the statement of the problem or the purpose kay diha daw nila makita kung unsa ka substantial ang study. It's because of your enumerated statement of the problem. Okay, or statements of the problem. That's accordingly to the regional coordinator ng research. Okay, so it's because your statement of the problem is considered the very meat of your study. So in the first place, dapat well crafted, well considered ang tanang elements present in the statement of the problems or purpose. It gives you it gives the direction, the flow of your the entirety of your research. So kung yaot kung lain ang wala na mao ang pagkasuwat sa mga statement of the problems, be consider bisag dili dapat. So we can highly expect na the quality, the quality of the research would not be that much. Okay, still in the statement of the problem or purpose na subsection. So in this section, you must begin with a sentence or two stating, with a sentence or two stating the general objective purpose of the study, followed by specific questions or objectives that expand or specify the coverage of the general objective or purpose of the study. So later in my next presentation, I will be showing you sample research output, highlighting the different parts of the study, different parts of research paper, by chapter and also by subpart. Then we have also significance of the study. This is the section or place where you state clearly the people who may benefit from your study and how they may benefit from it. For example, for curriculum planners. So in this presentation, everything should be itemized. Okay, dapat groupings. Pwede mo ingon kung education related ang study. So you may address the benefit to teachers students, okay, to students, to curriculum developer, okay, sa school administrators, okay. So by spelling out why you believe or think the research question should be answered, or the objectives be achieved or attained, and it may also show how the findings are expected, to have an effect on the research area. The degree of significance is found here. Okay? Kung unsa ka kadako ang ma-contribute, sa different fields. Kung education man gani, for example also kung mag-study ka about if this is in Siargao context, pwede ka, even in the tourism sector or industry, you can touch, topics under that. For example, since Siargao is a tourism island, you can assess the communicative competence among local transport drivers. Okay? Kanang magsugat-sugat, di ba? Kung muanhi kang Siargao, na ay mga tricycle driver, magsugat-sugat. Kung foreigner na, mag-English food na ang mga, okay, mag-English food na ang mga drivers. So, given the said situation or situation, you can help them. Actually, you can help them develop more confidence in terms of talking by simply investigating first the existing problem. Okay, they are not literally, okay, they are not actually good in terms of communication. Okay, dili ba na sila mga wala man nila study ang English. Okay, kasagaran mga habal-habal drivers, mga kuan man, mga wala man makatapos og college. So in short, given na nga they have low, okay, communicative competence, pero studyhan gihapon nato for us to come up with valid conclusion. And of course, part of the significance of the study, very great ang madawat ng mga habal-habal drivers for their own improvement. This is something that you can offer to the tourism sector. Okay, whoever are managing the tourism office, in the municipal level and even in the provincial level, you can submit the output, the outcome of your study. So corresponding intervention may be given by the immediate authority, which is the Department of Tourism. Okay. Pero language and focus, communicative competence. Next, we have here the scope and delimitation or limitations of the study. The scope sets the delimitations and establishes the boundaries of the study. This is according to Sevilla, Ocave, Ponsalan, Regala, and Oriarte in 1992. Indicate where and when the study was conducted and who your participants were. Be able to state if, most especially, if you are doing immersion. Okay, you are immersed, di ba? You are in a place, especially the mga cultural place, di ba? Cultural group of people. Mag-immersion ka dito, part of your study, so dapat well described and place na imo tag adtuan. That is part of the scope and limitation of your study. So you are giving your readers an idea as to the kind of description and setting where the study has been conducted. Okay,
kung maingon kag culture pero wala ka mo immerse, di ba? Ya ka no immersion happen. So dili kayo valid ang foundation ng imong research. So for example, no, kung moingon po ka nag-assess nimo the one I cited earlier, itong tourism, about their communicative competence, kung unsa kaabdikon, musulti ng in English ang mga habal-habal drivers. So i-indicate po na ko, no, as part sa scope and delimitation of the study, dapat na there should be clear details about the kind of community which is under investigation. Like Siargao is a tourism place. So enough to support, no, enough to validate na okay ang study. It's because you are in a situation na ang place also suits to the kind of study that you are conducting. There is no mismatch. Okay. So, honest acceptance of the limitation brings credence to the study, according to Sevilla et al. In 1992. So if there is limitation, wala akong kana, okay, daghan man gud habal-habal drivers in Siargao. Pero in my scope and limitation, I just stated there na okay, so habal local transport drivers in my study is only limited to tricycle, habal-habal, and also van operators. Okay, kay naamay po local transport drivers na pump boat. So, in my scope and limitation, kung walay appeal ang pump boat nga mga drivers, so dapat i-state po na ko diha ang kanila sila nga grupo na tao ang akong participants. Okay, that's it. So be realistic about them. These limitations should be discussed frankly. Pointing out the limits of your research study increases its value. So very important ang pag-set ng scope and delimitation of the study. Kaya if ever your panelist would ask questions beyond the scope and limitation of your study, you can defend confidently, facing with the panel members. So kung aware ka, you are well versed in terms of the scope and the limitation of your study, so very easy for you to also make necessary adjustments in terms of your explanation. Next, definition of terms. So what should be defined in this section, in this portion? So accordingly, define the important key terms and all variables, including independent and dependent variables. So in defining the terms, again, you go back, you go directly to your statement of the problems. Okay, or the statements of the problem. I mean, kay dito ka mag-base kung unsa ra ang dapat nato i-define, okay, about independent and dependent variables, including intervening or mediating variables, moderator, or extraneous variables, as well as units of analysis that will be measured in your study. Be sure also to list and define demographic variables which you consider to have potential influence. Okay? Influence used to describe your research participants. Example, age, gender, religious affiliation. Okay? All these demographic variables have, can adversely impact or influence the outcome of your study. For example, if your study is about the level of comprehension the level of comprehension among grade 12, grade 7 students. Pero it happens that one or five of your participants, no, in terms of gender, or no, in terms of age, na ay mga balik eskwela, na ay grade 7 pa, pero grade 7 ang level, pero ang edad is already taas na ang edad. Okay? And also, naapoy uban nga mo matter ang gender kay based on our common knowledge, mas motivated mo ba sa ang babae compared sa lalaki? Okay, because of their mannerism, because of the usual habit, ng mga lalaki. So all this must be well defined in your definition of term section. Ito mga dependent and independent variables. In defining your variables, operationally, it involves the specification of the measurement procedures that you will use, and also the scales of measurement, like nominal, ordinal, or interval, then the ratio. Do not assume that all your readers know what you mean by each important key term. You have to spell out also any acronym in the text the first time it is used, and define it also in this section. Okay. Di ba ko operational man nga definition? So you can cite the definition coming from mga scholars. Then in the second sentence, as you define a particular verb, no, a particular term, you can cite like, in this study, local transport drivers refer to mga habal-habal driver, tricycle drivers, and also van operators. Okay, so ang operational definition is a kind of definition that you need to really address, no? That you want to intend towards the readers. Kay kini man ang point kay kini man ang paagi na pagka-define ni, like for example, Obama, if Obama is a scholar, okay? So in my study, kini pod ang definition about this particular term. And that is what we mean by operational definition. Citing first, specific point of reference coming from scholars, and also you put it in the context of your study. Okay, when we mean operational definition of terms. So before defining the terms, make first an introductory statement. The term to be defined should be arranged in alphabetical order, and each is written and typed in boldface, upper and lowercase letters. So for emphasis purpose, and terms to be defined should be written in bold letters. So we come now to chapter 2, which is the review of related literature. Okay, it is the presentation of the moment we ask our students as to the difficult parts, no, ng research na mga na parts. According to them, most of our student responded na it's really in getting, no, the mga related studies and reviewing the related literature na they find the activity very difficult. Lisod maghanap, no, lisod mangita og related studies given nga there is time frame nga we need to follow. Like, if you are conducting this year, okay, if you are conducting your research this year, it should be 5 years backward. Okay? Ang mga related studies dapat published 5 years ago from the year of the conduct of your study. Okay? Na yung mga, because of that guidelines, no, because of that specific guideline, lisod pangitaon, really. It is really difficult to find, to search, no, mga review of related literature. That's why sa paghimo padaan ng proposal, din hinatadaan magsugod pag malarlar na daan ang students, no, and even mga teachers who are pursuing their postgraduate study. So the presentation of your review of related literature should follow the framework of your study. Okay, so you can also go back to your in organizing your RRL. You can also make use of the sequence from your statement of the problems. Okay, statements of the problem, I mean, mao'y basihan on how you can logically arrange your RRL in chapter 2. So pwede po chronological order, meaning tanan concepts, ideas na na-publish, no, coming from different authors in the same year, dapat they must go all together. Tibuon tanan. Okay, in one presentation, then followed by basta kay you follow the chronological order. Pwede po thematic. Okay, you can apply thematic approach in presenting your RRL. When we say thematic, tanawa, di ba, tanawa pangitaa ang imong statement of the problem. First come first. Kung sa akong enumerate dito, maupoy mo follow. For example, in statement number 1, you said, no, you're profiling, okay, the profile in terms of age, profile in terms of age, mga religion, affiliation, okay, religious affiliation, academic achievement. Pangita, no, you need to find related studies or literature nga nag-ingon. Kinsa ang nag-ingon nga, okay, no matter ang edad sa paagi sa pag-comprehend ng isa ka text. Okay? Level of comprehension man. So, pangita ako kinsa nag-ingon nga kung taas ang edad, taas po ang iyang mental capability on how to digest information both in printed, no, and sa online. Pangita po og related studies nga nag-ingon nga ang religious affiliation na ay impact sa pagsabot sa bata in terms of reading comprehension. Okay? So all variables nga involved dapat ma-link nato, no, pangitaan nato ng related studies nga nag-claim na mauna siya. Okay, something like that. Next, this chapter requires essence of research studies confined from various research resources. It is suggested as much as possible that you focus your review of related literature on work done, accomplished within the last 5 years. Okay? So mauna akong giingon nga, okay, backward, no, 5 years ang dapat year of publication sa mga statement ng mga scholars pertaining to certain topics. So include only conceptual literature and research studies related and pertinent to your study. Of course, do not entertain, do not acknowledge, do not include mga concepts and ideas, mga literatures that have nothing, no, nothing great to do with your study. Yung mga kung ano ini sila, mga ingon pa, kung if you happen to include them na way direct relevance and connection, mura na siya og giingon nga nuisance. Okay? Kung election pa na candidates. It will just ruin the presentation of your RRL. So you could have included ideas that is more relevant than the mistaken literature that you have placed in your RRL section. Your aim for this chapter is not to flaunt how much literature you have read, but to demonstrate familiarity with vital literature relevant to your research topic and problem. So it's not just about getting relevant or related literature in as much as you can. Dapat dili ni padaghanay. They should not appear as if you are just arranging them in enumeration. Okay, murag makita nato nga murag ipag enumerate naman, copy paste, okay, daghan kaayo, that's given, very good kay daghan, pero they just appear in enumeration. Dapat you should be able to build strong connection with one another, and your creativity in writing with the use of mga transition, diba? Mga linking phrase, okay? Transitional devices are of great help in cohesive presentation of your RRL. Okay. Let me just
Sir?
finish discussing RRL. Yes, ma'am. Hello, ma'am.
Okay, sir.
Can we? Sige,
It's
ma'am.
almost 11:30, and what
Yes,
we
ma'am.
have in the program is 11:30. So if you wish to continue this, it's okay, sir. And then let's have our lunch break. Would that be fine?
Sige, ma'am. Let's stick, ma'am, to our schedule, ma'am, as reflected in our program. Thank you so much for the reminder, ma'am.
Okay. So we'll have our lunch break now, sir, to be clear. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Sir, thank you so
So,
much.
we shall be. Yes, ma'am. We shall be back,
Yes,
ma'am,
sir.
at what time, ma'am?
We will be back at exactly 1 p.m., sir.
Sige. Noted po, ma'am. Noted with thanks po, ma'am.
Thank you. Guys, let us take our lunch break and enjoy your lunch. We'll see you at exactly 1 o'clock. See ya.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. Pag-amping mo.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you everyone for your indulgence in listening to our discussion this morning. Thank you so much.
Ibalik ka ba?
Yes, at 1 p.m.
Pinagkapon yan lang. Sablong pa.
Okay, guys, tag out. Sayang ang data. See ya.
Ma'am, pwede dili sa makabalik ko niya, ma'am. Kay namang way lang ako namang, ma'am.
Very important. Just make sure that you can continue. Sayang po ang learning opportunity. Just feedback as soon as you can. Okay?
Okay, ma'am. Sige, ma'am.
For the rest, guys, please be here virtually at 1 p.m. Enjoy!
Okay, ma'am. Bye. Thank you.
or discipline, and it can also be arranged according to the framework of the study. So the ones or the aforementioned uh, procedures on how you should arrange your information in your RRL are uh, are suggested in order for you to come up with a very logical presentation, okay, or logical arrangement of your related literature. Okay, so it was very clear na you can choose any of them, okay, based on your own preference. Kamo ang magpaigo no kung which one are you're comfortable with, no? Is it are you going to arrange your related literature by methodological similarities or by concept or theories, by chronological order or by historical development? Okay, that's for you to decide. Okay, for as long as still you would be able to present your RL in such a way that very clear and also can establish meaning of your of the relatedness of the different literatures that you have included in your RRL. Okay. If you will not observe these very properly, tendency would be very chaotic, very disorganized and presentation. It's because you did not employ strategy on how to present your RRL in logical way. Okay. Your last paragraph of the review should be a digest of trends observed and perceived gaps in the researches conducted, a bridge that calls for the need for your research problem or topic within the research area you plan to explore or investigate. Now, from the very beginning of your presentation in your RRL, okay, all about your related literature, when you come to your last paragraph, when you are already on the last paragraph, please don't forget to establish perceived gaps, because you've been already discussing a lot of related literature, pero dapat before you end your presentation in your RRL, you would be able also to present clearly your the gaps of the study, what makes your study different from the related literature that you have mentioned in your previous discussion, okay, in your previous paragraphs of your RRL. Kay nagyaw-yaw naman, daghan naman imo gipang yaw-yaw related literatures in your previous presentation, pero dapat before ending your RRL, ma-mention po nimo ang distinctive, okay? Ang distinction, I mean, between the cited literatures and your proposed study. Okay, that's what we mean by gap, okay, perceived gaps. So it is compulsory to state the in-text citation here and its complete reference of the extracted research studies here to avoid charges of plagiarism. So very important, no? You should be mindful of this because, again, this is one way of giving due credit to the intellectual attributes. For example, if certain ideas do not belong to you, so of course, proper citation is deemed necessary. So, with your failure to include the name of the scholar, the name of the writer, the authors who conducted the study, who popularized the particular concept, okay, that means you deprive them of due credit. So malisod na kay just like no our common practice when we post online via Facebook. So if it is a quotation and there is no quotation mark and there is no mention even of the writer, that is a very clear, okay, a clear offense, a clear manifestation of plagiarism because you're giving your audience an idea already na, okay, iyaha siguro ni kay wala may mga marks like quotation marks o wala po gani mag-mention ng pangalan kung kinsa nag-ingon. So here in research, in writing in organizing your RRL, please don't forget to always acknowledge the rightful owner of certain ideas and concepts. Okay, that is to set you free from a potential or a possible charges, no, possible charges of plagiarism. Again, your reputation is at stake if you forget to consider this one. So you know already man no, about mga in-text citation. There's mga in-text citations. There are a lot of formats, no, following in-text citation depending on what kind of sources. Okay, you have included in your RRL. For example, kung printed books, kung magazine, di ba, kung journals, electronic, and whatnot, and so on and so forth. Okay. So let's come now to chapter 3, which is about research methods or the so-called methodology, the research design. Okay, so in here, there is a need for you to have an introductory paragraph or an overview of this chapter to give your reader an understanding as to its coverage. So do not go right away with, do not go right away to the different sections under research methods without giving first your readers an idea of what cover, what cover research methods. Okay, like chapter 3, research method should include the following section components. We have research design. Okay, first is research design. So it was already discussed during our morning session, no? Morning sessions discussion. So there is a need for you to specify and describe the research method you will use, whether experimental, correlational, descriptive, quantitative, qualitative, or combination, historical, and among others. You should be able to discuss, explain the appropriateness of the research method to your study or why it is best to use to investigate the problem and or address the research question. So it's never enough to just simply cite na, okay, the research used experimental or correlational research design, period. Nahumana. So give us further, no? Give us further information, further details as to the reason why you've chosen that particular research design. So if we are the readers of your own crafted research output, it will give us an idea that you are well versed, you are knowledgeable enough in terms when it comes to your methodology, meaning you are aware about the mga essential uh, the essential feature, okay, the essential features of your study. Kaya nakabalo man ka nga, okay, no gamit og correlation, well explained, ganong correlational study ang gigamit, gumikan kay mauni based from the title itself ng study, gi-compare niya ang academic performance, socio-economic status, okay? Or iyang gi-compare ang academic performance against sa pwede po ang support, okay? The kind of support that the child gets from his or her family, okay? Parental involvement inside, di ba, in school. This is very essential to that would adversely, okay, directly impact an elaborate explanation under the research design. So that's it. Next, we have participants of the study. So you have to describe the sampling procedure, the technique for selecting your participants. This is the oral defense. Your panels, your panel would basically ask you about the procedure you've used in selecting your participants. For example, out of the total population ng inyong eskwelahan, for example, in junior high school, no cover of 3,000 population, how did you come up with the sample? What is your technique in choosing them all, diba? Sa atong imong. So this is also important na you should give us an idea, no? And in this section, which is in the participant of the study. Systematic sampling, stratified, cluster, diba? Dapat equal ang opportunity, okay, based on the nature of your study. Dapat equal ang opportunity ng ng imong population to be chosen as your sample. And that can be done only by using random sampling technique, okay, either systematic sampling or stratified. Di ba daghay paagi, and you can know further about them. Diba they were already introduced to you as early as grade 11 in your practical research 1. Okay, sige. Describe your participants in terms of some, okay, demographic or personological variables. Example, di ba, sex and age. So, kung well-defined already, based on your target na objectives na, okay, ang kuhaon nato is, for example, katong gi-raise gaina about spending trends ng men o women. So at their age, di ba? In their 30s, sa ilang 30 nga pangidaron. So very ang ilang age, very definite kay may target sa study. Then tables and or figures may be used to simplify the presentation of the demographic characteristics of the participants. Okay, so you can make use, no, in presenting the participants of the study, you can make use both, no, of both the linear and non-linear text with the use of graphic organizers, like the use of table to come up with a clear, no, a clear presentation of your report about the participant of your study. Sige. Please notify me if I'm just too fast in explaining my presentation. Thank you. So next is the setting of the study. If applicable only, and or if the setting is of particular significance and importance, example, if a particular barangay or minority group or community and others what's about the life of the life of a particular group of people, but you should also be concerned about what? About their nature, about their environment, the kind of living that they have. Okay? Most especially kung mga kultura-kultura, di ba, mga highly secluded area. Mo labang pa ka og pila ka bukid, di ba? Mo puyo pa ka dito sa ilaha for how many days for you to be able to get mga relevant information about their culture, about their movement, about their ways of living, about their lifestyles. Okay, so that's it. That's how important, okay, defining or describing your local site, no, is in research, no, methodology, which is under setting of the study. Describe the significant characteristics of the research locale. Okay, example, people's way of living, practices, di ba? Mga practices, customs, and traditions, common, typical job, or source of living. That's why the moment we crafted our contextualized LCP, no, in our respective schools, arang kadaghan nato gipamutang mga basic information about our school. For example, if we have feedered schools, like if your school is situated in one barangay and the composition of the population are divided from the composition of the population is divided from different neighboring barangays. So you should also stipulate, no? You should also state sa imo LCP ang ila primary source of income, means of living. For example, here in Santa Fe National High School. So both farming and fishing ang amo diri sources of income. We need to highlight that in our LCP kay any detail na we have included in the LCP, gamiton pud na sa central office, no? Para ila pud magamit sa ila policy making, maybe, or perhaps ila magamit sa mga educational intervention na pwede mahatag sa field. Okay? Kay let's say, for example, majority of our students do not own cell phone. And in fact, as of this very moment, we have blended approach to teaching. Okay, printed learning modules associated with online delivery. This is something that the right authority should intervene, provide corresponding mga intervention, mga remedies because of the details that we provided them. Okay, describe the significant characteristics of the research locale, people's way of living,
practices, customs, and traditions, common typical job or source of living, especially if the location of the study has bearing on the research problem, topic, method, and results. Actually, an documentary is already a form of research. But that's why if you are fond of watching Karen, no, David's documentaries, so makita ka doon nato na i-highlight pud niya ang klase ng pamumuhay. Then we also have description, no, clear image ng environment, kung unsa pod kalisod ang kinabuhi, especially sa bukid. That's the usual, no, scene sa mga documentaries. Next, we also have here in citing also the setting of your study. Others would opt to include map. Okay, mapa mismo, the local map ng community, okay, which is subject, no, ng imo study, the coverage of your study or the setting of your study. So we also have here research instrument. So what is the very essence of this research instrument? So let's also go back to, okay, in knowing the most appropriate instrument na we need to use, no, to get the desired data of our study, we also need to go back to our research questions. Pangitaa dito kung unsa ang imo gipang enumerate. Kay usually ang research instrument in conducting research is questionnaire itself. Okay, questionnaire, if not with the use of questionnaire, pwede po ka mo gamit og for example mga survey, oral interview. Okay, di ba yung interview gamiton sa survey. Okay, if it is not in written form. However, no, here in research instrument dapat kung unsa ang makita nato sa statement of the problem, the same po ang sequence in writing in making our research instrument. For example, if there is mention of mga sex, religion, economic status, dapat in your research instrument, all those must be reflected. Okay, reflected. Dapat mag-profiling pud ka sa imo paper. Pero kung wala nimo gi-mention ang profiling sa ilang mga atong gipang mention gaina, there is also no need for you to include them in your research instrument. Kay if ever you have mistakenly included, no, profiling pero walay purpose, walay purpose, walay intent, no, para sa imo towards the development of your research, then it's just a waste of time. Okay, it's just a waste of time and also waste of effort. Hindi man bisan og magtali-tali ka about sa ilang religious, di ba, religious affiliation, ilang sex, ilang age, pero di man nimo magamit kay wala man nimo gi-define sa imo statement of the problem. So dapat ingana ang mahitabo. So always go back to your statement of the problem, the presentation of your statement of the problem. Okay. So basta no mauto nga dapat kung unsa ang sequence sa imong statement of the problem, mao pud ang sequence sa research instrument. Okay, for example, kung moingon ka nga effectiveness ng implementation sa modular distance learning. So dapat ang mga ang mga checklist na dapat i-assess ng bata, ng imong participants, kung ang imong i-assess, ang bata ang mag-provide, di ba? Ang magsulti o mutugan kung unsa ka-effective ang delivery ng education in this time of COVID-19 pandemic. So ang bata po ang mag-answer sa checklist na imong gi-provide as part of your research instrument. Okay. Next, be able to describe how your variables will be measured or observed. Example, in an experimental research, the measurement of the dependent variable should be described in this section. So, describe the instrument and other data gathering materials you will use. Include information about the types of items and responses, the scoring procedure, evidences, that's evidence of reliability and validity of the instrument. If you constructed your own instrument, discuss the steps how you developed and validated your instrument. So one important reminder as well, if it is a self-made instrument, research instrument, so please do not rely too much on your own expertise. Please have others whom you think can also validate your crafted research instrument. Kay pangitaon po na ni practical research advisor or subject teacher, at the same time pangitaon po na ni panelist. Okay? So who validated your instrument, research instrument? So kung about education, about education ang topic, so have experts in the field like supervisors. Okay, if you can ask, if you can tap the support from your administrator, so please do it by all means. That's the importance of consultation. Okay, dapat i-coordinate lamang po para matabangan ka pag-establish ng validity sa imo research instrument. Kay dapat moagi jud na validation before the actual floating sa imo sa field. Okay. Okay, so here in the last sentence, copies of the instruments and other printed materials, so important as well kay pangitaon jud ni ipang-attach man ni sa mga appendices. Okay, ibutang na dito kay for example to check the veracity of your research instrument na it really undergone proper validation. Pangitaon dito ang signature ng validator, pangitaon dito ang mga MOVs, di ba? Mga mode of verifications. Pangitaon po dito ang signature, and most importantly, comments and suggestions from the validators themselves. Okay? Kaya kung during the course of your presentation, oral defense, and if ever, not just if ever, I'm very sure mga pangitaon jud ni sa mga panelists, pagpangita pero moingon na pud ka nga yes yes ka nga upon asking if the paper has really underwent rigid validation, moingon ka og yes, pero with your failure to present proof, wala na mo ma-present ang mga papeles because you're just lying. That isa na sa mga tendency, because your research is not honestly conducted. So again, you will take the prize. Okay, you will the end always justifies the means. Okay, that's it. We also have here data gathering procedure. Describe in detail the phases of your data gathering procedure and the specific steps for each phase that you will take in, that you will take in carrying out your research study. It may be helpful to come up with a flow chart. Okay, you can be guided by having a flow chart or a diagram to show the order of the activities that you intend to take. So in planning stage, in anticipating the possible steps that you might that you need to do to do while conducting your research. So subadara, okay? Subayon lang nimo, it's simply because mapa man na nimo, okay? That's your map while you are in the course of crafting your research paper. You are also kung nag-initiate na, nag-conduct na ka, okay, it's good. Kay you have you have something to follow based on the pre-planned nimo na mga steps. Especially when it comes to, di ba, on matters relative to data gathering procedure. Okay. Okay, it's here, how you will recruit or contact your participants, procedures for assigning participants to groups, administration of instrument, including pre-testing process, interviewing participants, and also the ethical procedures you will apply in your study. This is common. This is the usual steps in the data gathering procedure phase. Now, you need everything must be consented, meaning you should seek the approval. If you are conducting your research in one department, of course, a certain department is manned by their immediate supervisor. For example, if in the school setting, you need the approval of the principal. If it is conducted, if you are touching, if your target participants are mga 4Ps, recipients, okay, you also need to consult their coordinator. Okay, you need to have proper coordination because that is embedded, that is part of the protocol, that is part of the ethics in conducting research. Okay. Basin i-question ka, questionon man, especially kung nasabud ang authority. Tapos wala mo mutugot, gumikan kay iyahang valid reason, so you have also to respect their decision. We are living in a highly democratic society. That's part of simple logic can dictate, can tell us with what to do. Okay, so enumerate all the activities you will undertake to complete your study. Describe each activity in detail to help future researchers who would want to replicate your study. So it doesn't mean a particular study has already been conducted na it cannot be repeated for future research activity or endeavor. We have the principle of parallel study, meaning same study, same ang iyang target, but in different setting, in different with different population, with different sample. So we cannot expect the same result, no? Okay, we can still be able to establish originality in terms of the result ng study. It's simply because we are using different population, different sample, different setting, okay? And of course, the presentation of the output would be entirely different. Okay? So dili nato siya ma-sanction of plagiarism kay in the very first place, if that is a parallel study, it can be also reflected in the title itself. Okay? The lead, di ba? Mula ko na state first ang title, then with the use of colon, patanga ra yun mo og i-parallel study. Okay, human. Okay? So then your own attack will do, okay? Your own attack, your own procedure, ikaw na paigo para mahimo pud nga na-twist sa parallel study na you intend to undertake. Okay. Let's have this data analysis. Discuss the procedures as to how you will score, record, encode, and analyze your data to answer the research problems. If you will use a special form of recording or accumulating data, place an example in the appendix section. If you are conducting a phenomenological study, you should describe the sophisticated ways how the data would be processed and analyzed. If you will apply statistical tests to analyze your data, identify the specific descriptive statistics and or inferential statistics that you will use. So there was mention of the word the term phenomenological study. This is a special case, no, here in analyzing the data. When you are conducting qualitative research, the process is very complex. Okay? It is highly expected na along the way you can encounter complexities in terms of handling, in terms of processing the data. For example, in phenomenological study, although you will make use of, you will heavily make use of interview. However, an interview still moagi pa na og mga triangulation. Okay? Interview siya, it is very very easy for us to say interview raman na. Pero moagi pa na og proseso para ma-validate na ay consistency. Okay? Mo prevail ang theme. Okay? Kaya pag mula ang phenomenological study, we are in the light of getting the theme, okay, that may derive from the interviews conducted. Okay, mauna nga, for example, leadership, di ba? The lived experience of the school administrators of Siargao Division in New Normal. Okay. Interviewon si principal, interviewon pagadud si teacher, interviewon pagadud ang bata. Okay? For us to really exhaust, okay, the valuable, di ba, the most valuable na information that are of great help in the development of your study, of your research. Okay? So don't ever underestimate the significant value of interview. Kaya mga survey mo ato ra i-underestimate na dali raman na kay survey raman dili pareha sa uban nga mga quantitative research nga madugo kay mogamit pagadud ng mga statistical. No, not that way. Okay, not that way. Here also in data analysis, because of the advent of technology, we have a lot, there are a lot of softwares that can help us. Ay mismo, mismo ang software mo provide ng result, mo provide ng analysis. For example, ay input ra nato ang mga necessary data. Then upon processing, using the software, mugawas dito kung negative correlation ba or positive correlation, down by significant difference or relationship or wala. Okay? Part na ng most especially if you are in college already, of which ang bayad, di ba? Bayad sa thesis, inclusive naman ang bayad para sa statistician. That's already the role, the task of the statistician to analyze the data. Ang trabaho na lang ni researcher is on how to logically present, okay, to logically analyze the processed data from the statistical operation. That's it. Okay, next. We come now to chapter 4, the presentation, analysis, and interpretation of data. This chapter presents a collection, okay, a collection of what you have discovered or found. It is mistakenly, it was mistakenly emphasized even during your high school years back then, na pag chapter 3 na, pag chapter 4 na o chapter 5, di na kayo lisod. Kay balik-balikon na kan man, copy-paste. Kung unsa ang result, kung unsa ang sakuan, i-copy ra dito i-copy. However, it was also suggested na it should not be, the presentation should not be duplicated. We understand that the result is constant. We also understand that we should not twist. We should not change whatever results we have at hand. However, please do away with monotonic presentation of whatever presentations you have in different chapters. Okay, you can just simply retain the thoughts. You can just simply sustain the message, but it can be delivered. It can be presented differently. That's the suggestion here. So make a detailed explanation of your collected data necessary enough to help your reader to see and understand the significance of your findings and result, including trends, similarities, and differences. Present all relevant results in this chapter, as well as those that run opposite to what you expected, with the corresponding interpretation and discussion in reference to the research problem and or hypothesis tested and the statistical treatments you used or applied to analyze your data. So meaning, it can be based on the presentation, it can be deduced that you should not be selective in presenting the details. Okay? Take them all. Present, even mga sad, mga untowards, even mga undesirable na mga panhitabo during while you are in the course of kuan, still you present that in chapter 4. Okay? That is to doing so, it will help you become very objective. Okay, very objective in presenting the processed information. Ayaw i-manipulate, kay that is one thing that will ruin the value, okay, and also that will defeat, di ba? It will defeat the very purpose of research. Mawala ang katuturan or saysay ng paghimo ng research. Okay. Discuss also the implications and possible applications of the results of your study. Make sure that your findings, results, claims are always supported with appropriate statistical data. For example, if in your statement of the problems, no, you have included hypothesis. You have hypothesized na any claims that you have. Okay? So once proven, you try to discuss that intelligibly in chapter 4. So if the statistical operation suggests the need for you to reject the hypothesis, you state that here. Okay? If accepted po ang hypothesis, you also discuss that here in chapter 4. So, wala dapat ma-miss na mga important aspect ng imo research paper. Present your results clearly and straightforward manner. So remember, you are not making an essay here in chapter 4. It is far from writing your the problem, di ba? The problem and its background. Here, ayaw na i-circus ang presentation. Do it in straightforward manner. Okay? Dapat direct to the point ang presentation. Just like when you are writing a news. Diba? Very objective, yan ay papaliko-liko. Okay? Then complete enough for your reader to interpret them independently and assess its worth. Ana ka-importante ang straightforward na presentation kay it can easily be digested by whoever who would like to intend to read your output. Kay kung longer ang imong mga presentation, longer paragraph, no? Under let me suggest as well na in writing your chapter 4 dapat mga mugbo lang jud nga mga paragraph. Okay? Just like when you write a letter, dapat mugbo when you write a news kay ba one sentence paragraph and principle and write ng news. If you can manage to have it here in chapter 4, please do it. Kay para dili pud maluya ang mata, mao gani double spacing. Double spacing ang pagkasuyat, no? Pagkasuwat, I mean, sa content ng research para dili makuan ang mata, dili kapuyon. Kay our eyes tend to participate, no, in a short period of time. Very different, no? Kaysa sa mangita ka ng salida, kay bahala magkabuntag, nagpikat-pikat ra gyapon ang mata kay interesting manggod ang viewing. Okay? Unlike sa reading activity. That's why. Okay? Next here, no, chapter 4 still, you should also be able to interpret your results in the light of the theoretical or conceptual framework that you have specified in chapter 1. Okay? You should be able to connect your findings to those related research studies earlier conducted. Okay, that is to validate all the claims you have mentioned, no, coming from different scholars, different authors in your chapter 1. So, makahelp ini pag-establish ng strong foundation sa ipang mention sa chapter 1. So you should be able to connect your findings to those related research studies earlier conducted, compare and contrast the result, and make clear explanation as to how the specified field of inquiry is affected by your present study. Your literature view can also or can be used here to support or refute. Okay, it's either to support or to refute, to invalidate your findings or result of your study. See to it that the reader would get and understand what you mean in terms of the results or findings of your study. If there are hypotheses that you have tested, confirm. No? I have already made clear discussion on this matter. You can use tables, graphs, and other figures to report the results of your study. So don't rely too much on paragraph presentation. Kay mas dali masabtan kung there is a mixed use ng paragraph ng words sanan o paragraph o mga table or any mga helpful organizers, graphic organizers na pwede magamit. Pero normally sa results ng presentation mga naman jud ni mga table. Okay? Okay. Let's have chapter 5, the summary, conclusions, and recommendation. This chapter presents the summary of your findings, conclusions, and recommendations. See to it that the summary or findings is presented in a concise or brief manner. You should put together the highlights of the most important findings in your study. It should not be a repetition of your discussion in chapter 4. Okay, very clear. Okay? Very clear ang reminder na it should not be a duplication of your discussion in your chapter 4. Then this chapter should also give the reader a clear-cut message, so to speak, that would allow him or her to have a full grasp of what you did and found in your study, because not all of us has the luxury of time. Okay, we don't have enough time because we have a lot of things to attend to. Daghan tayo mga trabahoon. If I just opted to just read the title and go directly to the summary, conclusion, and recommendation, I guess that's still enough for me to be well informed about the study. Bahala ko na ako kumpleto ha pagbasa, pero naaman ang clear presentation, naapod ang reliable conclusions, naapod ang mga recommendations. I guess I am still oriented with about the study of a particular researcher. That's it. Okay. And then here in chapter 5, I also highlighted this one. I also reiterated this one during my introduction, that the recommendation section of your research is a potential source of future study. Diba naaman diha ipabutang kung unsa okay ang study, pero dapat studyhan pa pud niya ang about adto. So diba? So that will give you an idea with what to focus for your next research endeavor. So, very helpful and recommendation kay usually ang mga tao, ang mga researchers diha po mag-base sa ila future research proposal in the recommendations. Sige. Keep in mind that in drawing conclusions, it should be based on the results, findings of your study, of course. Okay? You should anchor, you should base your conclusion sa findings and the results of the study. Conclusions are not just repeating your findings, but abstractions of the summary of findings. Numerical values like the mean, standard deviation, the p-value, the F ratio, and etc. should no longer be reported in this chapter since they have already been presented in chapter 4. The presentation, mga analysis, and presentation of data. So that is the right place for them to be introduced and discussed. See to it that your conclusions are tied. Okay, your conclusions are tied to the research questions of your study. Let's always go back to the enumerated statement of the problem. No, if talking about the statements of the problem, no, if they were properly addressed in your study. Kaya kung wala, jud dili mo mutubag sa mga pangutana sa statement of the problem, so I guess your research is a total waste. Your research output is a total waste. That's it. Then give your recommendations and implications or possible applications of the results of your study. You can also suggest future research possibilities vis-a-vis research you conducted. Okay? So, mao to gi-mention kay the one na I made mention a while ago. You can get from there mga possible, mga potential research problems. Kay kuan man, well recommended by the researcher. Okay, so I guess that's all for my presentation. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your indulgence.